Okay, what's up, folks? David Simpson from the criminal justice realm, the Remedy Project, here again with a little special project, which we'll call Picking Apart the BOP and their nonsense. Well, I wouldn't add the nonsense part, but let's call it Picking Apart the BOP. What I'm going to do here is for you students and other folks who advocate against and/or for folks who are incarcerated, but and/or advocate against the Federal Bureau of Prisons. You want to know and understand what's really going on when it comes to what they are doing, what the Federal Prisons Bureau of Prisons is doing, and how they do things. It's not a lot of folks who really could identify the nonsense within all that's going on, but I think that I can. I've been challenging them a while, and I think that I could highlight and point out some of the nonsensical stuff, some of the hypocrisy and stuff within their, within what they do, and yeah. So here I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna give it a shot to try to make sure you guys could see clearly the inaccuracies and and hypocrisies within their policy reforms and so on and so forth. Okay, students and others. Let's take it away. So first thing first, let me tell you. So there's a lawyer within my circle, Al, that reached out to me, and he sent me an email a while ago saying, "Hey, man, this is some policy that the Federal Bureau of Prisons is trying to get passed. You need to take a look and support and or comment on this because you're an expert in the field." And unfortunately, it took me till the last day of the policy when I opened it up and I looked. Oh shoot, this is tomorrow. This is due tomorrow, and I was rushing. So I took a look at the policy. I didn't get far. What happened is, in reading at the beginning, I found a major piece of proposal that the Federal Bureau of Prisons is proposing that would hinder folks who are incarcerated severely, and I couldn't go any further. I had to stop and address that myself because what they were trying to stop would hinder what we do here at the Remedy Project, what the students do at the Remedy Project when it comes to filing grievances and helping folks on the inside. So I needed to address that. And so what I did was I addressed it. I did a letter, and addressed that alone and file it on time to get that done. All right, so what is all of this I'm talking about and what policy and stuff? Okay, so on the screen here we got, for you, it's the Inmate Discipline Program, Disciplinary Segregation and Prohibited Act Code changes that the Federal Bureau of Prisons is making, issued on the 1st of February 2024, and is hosted on regulations.gov. All right. Like I said, this had a deadline of the date that I was basically the next day that I was reading it. The next day would be the deadline to submit proposals on this in regulations.gov. And so I went ahead and I challenged something, and I want you to see it. I want you to see what it is I challenged. And what we're going to do is I'm going to show you this one, and then I'm going to take my time and go back and look at other aspects of what they're filing in here and expose that to you too. Don't get me wrong, a lot of things that they can recommend can make some sense and are appropriate, but there's a lot of stuff that they have, there's no legitimate reason behind it, only to further their interest of protecting their jobs, pay raises, and stuff like that. and the big business of incarceration slash slavery, right? So yeah, so this is the policy that they looked up. And so this is the very first page of this document, right, on the Federal Register. The very first page, right? You see here is page 1 of 43. I started reading this and I got up to page 4 before I was stopped in my tracks by this paragraph here, clarification changes. Let's take a look at what they have in the background first. It says in this document, the Bureau of Prisons, the Bureau proposes to amend and clarify and streamline inmate discipline regulations in 28 CFR Part 541, right? And this is where they're doing it on the website here, to confirm with current practice, to adopt recommendations of the U.S. Department of Justice report and recommendations concerning the use of restricted housing, January 2016. Hereafter report to reduce potential length of the disciplinary segregation sanction and to amend and clarify the list of prohibited act codes. Okay, so off the rip, this has to do a lot about making changes. They at least that's what they're suggesting, pertaining to the special housing unit, right? Keeping people in segregation, within the shoe or the hole, as we the slaves called it. Right? And those of you who are incarcerated, yes, you were a slave at some point in time. Once you're in that system, that's what you are. Check. Don't argue with me. Don't be mad at me. Check the Constitution. See, you got a felony, you're a slave. All right. So that's what they're saying that this is about, right? And so if this is about making changes and stuff, to do that stuff, then this is where they start entering clarifying changes. This is where they start taking care of or letting folks know what it is they're going to do. And you won't believe that the very first thing that they are recommending is extremely dangerous and harmful to folks who are incarcerated, and extremely powerful and helpful to staff and or the Federal Bureau of Prisons, because it is a form of hindrance to those who are incarcerated and a form of protection to those who work with the system. And what, David, what the hell are you talking about? Well, let me show it to you. It says here, Section 541 currently indicates that the purpose of this subpart is to describe the inmate discipline program. The Bureau then says, we first propose to add introductory language clarifying that the subpart does not create a private right of action or otherwise permit civil claims for alleged violations. What? You guys, do you understand what it is Jay just said? Well, let me break it down to you, right? And all that mumbo jumbo that they got there, right? Let me break it down to you. What they just said there is that they are proposing to let incarcerated people know by the inmate disciplinary program, a policy, that they have no right to file civil rights complaints based on any violation that they by staff against them, based on what's going on, right? So any violation that happens to you, you have no right to file a civil complaint against us. Right? What are they talking about? That is horrific, right? Are these folks out to serve the community, help and or take care of folks who are sentenced to a time of imprisonment and make sure that they are safe and their well-being is good, and that they are properly taken care of, and that they do their time in a peaceful and just manner. Is this really about justice, or is it something else? Well, I would tell you it's definitely something else. This is all about modern day slavery and maintaining the status quo of punishment and dehumanizing of the population that is incarcerated, and protecting staff from being held accountable when they are caught doing this stuff. That's all this is here about, and I'm going to break it down to you. So I address this line, I address the paragraph completely. So there are other things in this paragraph, but that line first and foremost is what I addressed, right? And where did I address it? So I addressed it on this letter that I submitted the next day, on the site, to, you know, to push back against that nonsense. And so let me break this down to you on how I'm pushing back. Right? So first thing first, the Prison Litigation Reform Act, the PLRA, which was instituted to where the remedy process, the exhaustion of the administrative remedy process, is vital to folks who are incarcerated. Right? And so what's happening here is you have the disciplinary process, which their policy addresses, and that policy tells them how to deal with folks who may have committed a prohibited act or violation, or broken the rules, and how they get to punish them, and so on and so forth. And in that policy is where they're saying, if we wrongfully punish you, you don't have a right to file a civil complaint. But that policy, the disciplinary policy, works hand in hand with the administrative remedy policy. And anything that needs to be addressed within the prison system has to be done by the administrative remedy process or policy. Right? So those two policies work hand in hand. This is what I teach students at the Remedy Project in order to advocate on behalf of folks who are incarcerated, especially dealing with the disciplinary process. So for them to say to you, or to suggest to the incarcerated slave that, you can't file civil rights complaints. This here doesn't give you the right to file a civil rights complaint. We're taking that away. That in itself is a violation of another policy called the Prison Litigation Reform Act, which mandates that anyone who has issues in the prison system raise it by exhausting the administrative remedy process, right? So he says that the first key to remember about the PLRA is that before you file a lawsuit, you must try to resolve your complaint through the prison grievance process. This usually requires you to give a written description of your complaint, often called grievance, to the prison official. If the prison provides a second or third step, likely letting you appeal to the warden, then you must take all those steps. If you file a lawsuit in federal court before taking complaints through every step of your prison grievance procedure, it will almost certainly be dismissed. Right? And so you got to use the administrative remedy process. And if your civil rights are violated, this is how you do it. Otherwise, you have no complaint, right? So, civil rights, what is that? Well, a civil rights complaint is a formal expression of dissatisfaction or grievance related to the violation of individual civil rights. These complaints typically arise when someone believes they have been subjected to unlawful discrimination, harassment, or denial of their rights based on certain protected characteristics. You like that? I got that word. Yeah. Here are some key points about civil rights complaints pertaining to incarcerated individuals. What it involves. A civil rights complaint of an incarcerated person can cover various aspects of life experienced inside prison. It may relate to issues such as discrimination, harassment, abuse based on on factors like race, color, national origin, disability, sex, religion, family status, class of one, not a lot of people know about that one, I'm exposing it, or loss of other constitutional rights, right? So a civil rights complaint, again, any violation that falls within that description right there by the Federal Bureau of Prisons can be considered a civil rights complaint. So, and you must use the PLRA law or policy of filing administrative remedies or grievance against the prison in order to get your complaint to the court, in order for the court to compensate or bring you, you know, redress of whatever that situation is, right? It's just that simple. So for them to suggest to these incarcerated folks that, this doesn't give a rise to that is outrageous, right? So let me show you here. So what I did was I continued here. So an incarcerated individual in the Federal Bureau of Prisons must must use the administrative remedy process for the purpose of exhaustion in order to qualify for the courts to address their civil rights concerns, right? So for instance, if a person is placed in the special housing unit for an extensive amount of time in horrible conditions, which they usually are, right? These prison systems, the SHU is usually the most horrible place in the system by design, because it is a mechanism by which staff torture folks into submission, where they try to break you. The idea or the mentality, the concept is to break the individual, to get them in line, to get them to conform to what they want them to. And so that's the number one reason for putting you in there. All that other protecting folks and no, forget that nonsense. Okay, that's the goal. Put you in. Oh, you want to give problems? Oh, you want to do this? You want to do that? All right. Here, punishment. Take this punishment. Let's break you and I'll leave you there and forget about you until you start to act right. That's the goal of that use, right? And so if they put you in there in horrible conditions, then they're violating your civil rights. Then you are allowed to use this system, the administrative remedy process, for that. So if a staff member lies on an incarcerated person, makes up a false issue, and gets them charged and put in the special housing unit where they spend a lot of time and probably lose good conduct time, that's a violation of the person's civil rights. And so they can file a grievance using the administrative remedy process. They could file a civil right complaint grievance. Okay, so what is going on here? So the Bureau of Prisons, this is their paragraph here that I put in my letter, which I address, right? And so basically, all right, so I'm not going to continue reading all of this out for you. You guys could read this as I talk. But I'm going to say this as simple as I can. All they are doing with that, by suggesting, right, by suggesting here that we first propose to add introductory language clarifying that the subpart does not create private right of action or otherwise permit civil claims for alleged violations. All they are doing is planting the seed for folks who already don't understand the system, the remedy process or the disciplinary process that well, planting that seed in their mind that, hey, if we violate you, you can't use the system to grieve saying that your civil rights were violated. What are these folks going to do? When they read that, when they see that, or staff would start promoting it, if they get it, if they get that instituted on that policy, they'll start promoting that part. Hey, you guys can't file any civil rights complaints. So, say for instance, someone is violated, their civil rights is violated, and the Remedy Project students do a civil rights complaint, BP8, BP9 for that individual, and give it to them to submit. Staff can look at it, and once they see this is a civil rights complaint, staff can immediately turn to that individual and say, well, based on the disciplinary process program statement, you don't have a right to you don't have a right to file civil complaints based on whatever violation that was done to you. So here, you could hold this. What does that do? That automatically bars the individual from submitting a civil rights complaint. That individual then goes and looks at the amended policy if he's smart enough or aware of that, and those lines are there, and he automatically believes, oh, they're right. What happens is now you have a mass move away from folks trying to address their civil rights violations that staff have committed against them within the system. That's what that there is about. It's not about anything else. It's about protecting staff. That's what they do. That's what they do. One aim, one goal, one mission. Protect FBOP staff at all costs. That's what that line there is doing. Don't file no civil rights complaints against us. Don't hold us accountable when we mess up. Don't take us to court. Don't ruin our chances of promotion. Please don't hinder our chances of a pay hike or pay raise. Right? Yeah, we're not having it. So we're going to implement this line here into policy that takes away your ability to do that. That's all this is about, right? And that's what I address in my paragraph here. Basically, that if this is allowed, that's what is going to happen. You're going to allow these folks to take away the ability for these folks to file, to file remedies, to file grievances. As a matter of fact, that policy it's a violation of this. Right, of this policy. It's in conflict with the PLRA, which says that if a person has a grievance of any kind, especially a civil rights complaint, which is very important, they have to take it through the administrative remedy process, right? And so by telling an individual, hey, that you can't do that, what are you up to? What is your reasoning? What is your legitimate reasoning here, Federal Bureau of Prisons? They had none. They didn't even explain it. Right? Let me go back to the original document. They didn't even explain why that line was important. Right? They just put that in there and left it alone. It's just like sneaking it in. But they did it the very first thing. To the untrained eye, they're hindering folks from filing civil rights complaint, and the untrained eye wouldn't notice this. You wouldn't notice it at all. All right? So that's what they got going on there. And I addressed it in this paragraph here in this letter, and now I'm exposing it to you, the students and everyone else, because I like to show you the things that these folks are really, really up to. They're not always up to good. They're up to a lot of foolishness a lot of time. These are regular human beings, regular individuals who just believe that conducting the business of slavery, modern day slavery, incarceration, and punishment and dehumanizing is so profitable that they can't move away from it. So they come up with these little things to hinder the process to, to continue conducting business as normal. Yeah. The students at the Remedy Project got something different for you guys. Now I'm helping them out, right? All right. So the next thing I addressed in that paragraph was the constant emphasizing that inmate discipline helps ensure the safety, security, and orderly operation of correctional facilities, as well as the protection of public by sanctioning inmates who commit prohibited acts. They love to rehash that. They love to emphasize that all the time whenever they can, right? That we need to punish folks in prison because punishing them for things that they might do protects the community and all this other good stuff. No, come on, stop it. Please stop it, right? The mindset or the idea or the concept of punishment is what you were ingrained with and or indoctrinated with by the Jim Crow era laws and or policies of slavery, because that's what your big business of prison is. It's modern day slavery. You got slaves and you got to break them. You got to make sure that they fail, that they're broken so much that they fail, so that you could keep them in the system constantly, so that you could collect money off of the taxpayers. That's the main goal of a prison in the United States of America, not what they would like you to believe it is. Not the policy of justice. No, right? They use that as a guise or a ruse, right? And so they constantly tell you, oh, well, this is what that's about. No, it's not about that, because you guys don't ever follow this stuff. You run a bunch of prisons that are disorderly. It's rampant with racism. It's rampant with murders. It's rampant with all other sorts of sexual abuse and staff misconduct and prison wars and all. It's a horrible system that you're running. And so to keep emphasizing that this orderly operation, correctional facilities, well, the protection of the public and sanction, that's not, please stop. Okay? Just stop. You're not doing anyone any good by constantly emphasizing this stuff. If your prison system is horrible, it's a crisis. It murders, dehumanizes, and destroys people daily, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and otherwise. It is inhumane. It is evil. Okay? The vast majority of folks in your system did not have to be slaves, do not need to be slaves. This is what you're doing. Stop it. Okay? Stop saying that stuff. Right? You guys need to stop it. All right? Here's the other thing I addressed here. Right? And finally, it doesn't matter how much you reiterate. The subpart describes the inmate discipline program and ensures that the sanctions will not be imposed in a capricious and retaliatory manner, consistent with the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 for all discipline cases. The unit disciplinary career disciplinary hearing officer shall consider the individual inmate's mental health mental health and disabilities when determining their appropriateness of sanctions. Listen, That's another one. You constantly say and or push that we're not going to use this disciplinary process in an unjust and unfair manner. That's what you say on paper. That's what you say on policy. But that's not what your staff does. Okay? Stop it. Okay? Please. Stop it. Your staff violates your policy every day. Every day. They hinder folks filing administrative remedies. They abuse people. They do all types of stuff. And when they abuse an incarcerated person and the incarcerated person hints that they're going to complain or file a grievance, they'll turn around and write the person an incident report and institute the disciplinary process against that person, and they'll lie and make up stuff or emphasize stuff greatly in order to teach that incarcerated person a lesson or to silence them, to to punish them, right? And then you'll throw them in your torture chamber, which is the SHU, or the special housing unit, to silence them. This is what happens. This is what's happening in your system, not what you're saying here. So please stop it. I'm begging you. It's time for this shit to stop. We need to change. Change this, okay? We need to change the way we're doing these things. Uh, Slave nation, United States of America, enslaving its own population, and its people is allowed. And this here is a perfect example of how regular, common human beings who, just because they work for the system, decides to take advantage of those of marginalized communities or unfortunate folks who may or may not have committed crimes but are accused of it, and they take advantage of them, and you're destroying them in your horrible system, and then you put forth this nonsense to justify the horrible things that you're doing. It needs to stop. All right, folks, this was just me addressing that first section. Like I said, I addressed the first section of that, of what they did on that page. I couldn't even get further. Yeah, I had to, I just had to address that. But since I didn't get to address the rest in policy, what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue down that, that document, their proposals, and I'm going to give you a fair understanding of what they're doing and or recommending that's good, and point out all of the nonsense and hypocrisy like I just did in that first section, that I can find as I go along. So this is going to be, like I said, I'm going to do a little section. We're going to call it Picking Apart the FBOP, and picking apart FBOP policy. How about that? And I'm going to address some of that stuff. However, I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. I love exposing the bad acts and the hypocrisy of others. And please, let me know if there's something or some policy or something you'd like me to talk on. We'll address it at the criminal justice realm here on our YouTube channel, and and the students of the Remedy Project would love to hear about it. All right, so folks, please like, subscribe, share. Please feel free to support the staff at the criminal justice realm that makes and promote these videos. Yeah, please feel free to support the Remedy Project and the students of the Remedy Project in undermining the prison system by using the legitimate means of helping folks who are incarcerated file and or use the administrative remedy process, which is their right, for the purpose of ending the crisis that is the FBOP. That's our goal, right? We need to stop that crisis. All right. See you guys soon. Glad to hear from you. David Simpson, Criminal Justice Realm, The Remedy Project.